Andreas, my friend, welcome to the Wellme podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm happy you're here.
Thank you so much.
So we've known each other for a couple of years now, but we've never really gone super deep into a conversation. So I'm excited to get to learn a little bit more about you. I'd love to start with how you began your journey from, I know you're born in the States and then now you're here in Thailand. You've lived in jungles, you've started companies. I want to kind of just dig into that a little bit, the story, to set the stage for what you do with helping people and clients. So to begin, where were you born? What's your background in the States?
So I was born in Chicago, and I grew up and spent most of my life in California.
Okay, what part?
In Orange County.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. How long did you stay there?
So I moved to California when I was about 6 years old, and then I lived there till I was 18.
Okay. And so you graduated high school in Orange County?
Correct.
Where'd you go after that?
And then I moved to Arizona and lived in the desert for 3.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that?
Wow. Living coming from a place like California where the weather is perfect, and then going to the desert where if I left my laptop in the car, it would fry up. So it was a different terrain. It was a different environment, and being 18 and so naive and also so enthusiastic about life, it really helped propel me to where I am today.
What were you doing out in the desert?
So when I was 18, that's when I began to be spiritual, you can say. I started to pray to the divine, to God, and that's when I really felt and heard a voice inside of me, and I followed that voice, which led me to Arizona. And from there, I did what I thought I was supposed to do, go to college. I had government assistance to help me pay through college. I went to college and became a personal trainer and nutritionist. I started training professional athletes like people from the Cincinnati Reds baseball team and the Atlanta Braves. So it really led me into this path of wellness and connection.
Wow, so you were working with extremely high-level athletes.
Yeah, professional golfers, professional baseball players in Arizona.
What did you pick up from, obviously, their physical capabilities are extraordinary, but what about their mindset? Like, what is was there common themes that you saw that allowed them to also develop their bodies so strongly as well?
So for me, I saw these athletes as people, just like people who have goals, just like people who have a family and who are married and have children. They were people just like you and me. And, I really connected very well with athletes because I grew up as an athlete as a child and growing up into my teenage years. But I really found that professional athletes are very committed, when they really go for a goal. And, when they want to be the best or they want to be the champion, they pretty much are like looking for all the ways that they can be that.
So what kind of common themes did you find in the way that they approach their training and their work-life balance and just kind of everything about the way they conducted themselves?
Okay, so I would say one comparison compared to, say, like a white-collar 9-to-5 person is, you don't really need to motivate them so much because they have that innate motivation. They have that focus, I think people that working 9-to-5, for example, like white-collar people, they're so drowning in responsibilities with their family, with their work, that thinking about their dreams, thinking about their goals, thinking about who they are or what they want in life is very suppressed. So working with athletes, it's, you're working with someone that's really going after their dream. And that carries a lot of energy.
What do you think it is that allowed them to pursue their dreams? Is it just the fact that they, had this physical ability from when they were young and people told them they were good? Or do you think it came from a deeper place of alignment with an inner drive and a purpose and a committed vision that they connected to consistently. Like, what do you think really allowed them to live that dream?
I think it really starts in the household of how people, how me, how you are grown up by our parents. What's fed into our minds. I think what's so important is, the most important person that thinks about me is me. And as a man thinketh, so is he. So if you think that you're a champion, if you think that you're a professional athlete, if you think that you're strong enough, then, it's going to help. It's not going to give you everything, but it's definitely going to help, One of my mentors, Zig Ziglar, would say, positive mental attitude is not everything, but it is something, Just because I have a positive mental attitude doesn't mean that you're going to hire me to do surgery on you, right? Because I'm not a doctor.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So positive mental attitude, it's powerful, but it's not everything. Yeah.
Do you think that positive mental attitude rubbed off on you?
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian household, quite religious. My father's a pastor. So to see my father kind of speaking every single week as a child, as a teenager, all the way till I was 18, pretty much. My dad speaking to multitude of people, on the camera, online, in person, and I was kind of, there in the front row looking up.
Wow.
Like, so you can imagine, I have a lot of, how do you call it? Like scripts of the Bible in my mind and inside of me, and this motivation that my dad was giving to people at the church. So this was really powerful. And I think when I was even 18 or 19, my dad had me as a guest speaker, and I spoke on the stage. I was living in Arizona, and I came there to speak, and it was very powerful. But I can definitely commend that power and that energy that I had from my father.
What was it like seeing your dad as a leader on Sunday mornings to your local community and people that are important to you? Everyone's looking up to your father, and then that juxtaposition of him at home.
Yeah.
Waking up in the morning, cooking eggs and bacon, and like watching movies at night. Like, how did that shift back and forth between seeing your father in this one light versus seeing him as an ordinary person the next?
So as a child, my dad was my role model, and I remember going trick-or-treating, and people would think that me and my dad were like brothers. Like, oh, this is your little brother. So my dad had me when he was like 21, 22. So we're not so far apart, but my dad also was looking very young when I was a child. And growing up, it was there was hate inside of me growing up as a child. I grew up in a household where it was quite verbally abusive, physical abusive. So it was very contradictory to what I was hearing and what I was seeing in person. And I think it got me kind of perhaps confused, but also I was very depressed as a teenager, especially. I didn't feel like I was getting the love that I was needing as a child, and as a teenager, I was looking for love in all the wrong places, going to parties, getting drunk, doing drugs, going to raves, and in realizing older that, I really wanted love. And the way that my dad knew about it was, read your Bible, pray, doing these kind of methodical or robotic or things that I'm not saying that aren't good, but I think there was some spirit, something missing, some heart that was missing. It was just like some words, but the words didn't have so much power. So, growing up, seeing my dad as a preacher on Sunday, and throughout our life in the day, it was very challenging. And when I was 16, we got in a physical fight together. And it was a Sunday, getting ready to go to church. And he actually ended up getting arrested.
No way.
And I ended up going to the hospital.
No way.
And then from there, our relationship was really severed. But really from that moment on, my dad also, I didn't see him like physically hit me or my siblings or my mom again. So, yeah, so that was a big moment for me as a teenager.
So how did you come to reconciliation with this kind of Jekyll Hyde sort of split reality? Did it take some time, I imagine?
Yeah, for sure. When I was 18, my dad said I was a man, time to move out of the house. And that's when I began getting spiritual, like I was saying before. And that's when I started praying, and I heard this voice in my stomach say, go to Arizona. I called up a church counselor of mine growing up with, and who lived in Arizona, and I said, hey, I think God's called me out to Arizona. And he said, when do you want me to come pick you up? I got an extra car. I have 3 extra bedrooms in my house. I told my dad, I said, hey, I think I'm going to go to Arizona. And he said, okay, you can graduate high school first, and then you can be on your way. So this was a really challenging time for me, because I think subconsciously I was feeling abandoned and feeling not loved, and also feeling like I'm not enough, that I actually, like, I'm getting kicked out of my parents' family's house for not being enough or not being good or perfect or whatever. So when I moved out and went to Arizona, I got baptized as a Christian and was going out praying for people and seeing miracles happen. And I really saw people healed. But I also noticed that what I needed was forgiveness. I needed to forgive everyone and anyone, myself and my dad. And my dad, this was a huge thing for me, man, to forgive and to do sessions, go to therapies and everything, man, because there was so much hate inside of me and so much, I didn't know how to understand really all the emotions, the anger, the sadness. And so these last, 15 years, I basically have been on a mission to basically cleanse myself, purifying my mind, purifying my emotions, and doing things from, Kundalini yoga to meditation, Vipassana, to spending time with myself, to fasting, to dry fasting for multiple days. And just making sure that my mental, emotional, and physical state is balanced and aligned.
I find it interesting that from this place of not feeling enough, feeling abandoned, feeling like you need to prove yourself, there are many different ways that you could have navigated that. And you were drawn towards something within you rather than external. Did it take some time for these spiritual practices that you were pursuing, whether it's in the church, whether it's yoga, and so on? Did it take any time for there to be an actual shift from seeking to genuine embodying?
So I think from the ages of like 18 to 23 or something like this, I was noticing, I was becoming more conscious that I was looking for love in all the wrong places growing up as a teenager. Like I told you about drinking, getting drunk, sex, like drugs, going to raves. I noticed that I wanted to really stop drinking alcohol. And so when I was like 21, 20 or 22, something like this, I remember like really consciously wanting to quit drinking because I didn't like this feeling of like hungover the next day. And when I kind of gave up this alcohol feeling, because I left an alcohol bottle in my fridge, and I thought, okay, if it's in my fridge, I'm just not gonna grab it. And this is like my training to not drink it. And it's like, it's interesting. It's kind of like maybe like the Garden of Eden where God said, Eve, don't eat the apple, but it's there. And it's like, I know it's there, but for some reason it helped me not to drink it or not to have it, knowing that that, okay, if I don't drink that. And during this time, that was probably one of the first big things for me, is to letting go of something that was toxic for myself, a vice you can call it. And then I would say getting into Kundalini yoga was a big part of my life, about connecting more deeply with myself. So I would wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. doing this breath work and yoga for 2-3 hours every day. And I would grow out my facial hair. I put like a turban around my head to contain the energy while I'm doing these practices. And I felt very connected, very present, very here. It was like back then I could say I felt like enlightened in a way, but it was really, I think my channels or my energy system was just very clear and very present. And so I could, say, hey, this is what I want to manifest, and it would happen. And that's what I would do. So yeah, I think doing these yoga and these practices really supported me in like living an aligned life and being aware of my mental, emotional, and physical state. Yeah, repetition, man. Repetition. I would say repetition. I can go on and tell you other stories, but I would say the simplicity of it is, it's repetition. Practice, 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 until people start saying, wow, how do you do that? Wow, I've noticed this about you. Like, what's going on? And then I start realizing, okay, wow, okay, then it's probably must be working. But I think it's like this, when you go to Vipassana, when you sit down and meditate, it's like, okay, let go of why you're even here, what you're even meditating for, and just be. And then I feel like this is where like when the divine, when the earth, when the elements, when other people start connecting, the right people connecting with you, where you're exactly where you need to be.
Yeah, I think that consistency piece is the biggest key. It's funny because you hear a lot of people will say, I started, I journal every morning, I have this routine, and I do this and that, and then you keep talking to them about it, and it turns out they've been doing it for like a week. And people want to talk about the things that they're doing before the results are even here. It's almost like it's more for an image rather than a state of being, a transformation of consciousness. So I fully agree with that, letting the results speak for themselves. And I'm just curious how you mentioned the mental, emotional, and physical bodies. And how did Kundalini yoga, how did this practice, without going into the super details of it, but how did this help to clear and cleanse and balance your mind and your emotions and your physical body?
How does it clear it? That's a very interesting thing. Yeah. What comes up for me is it has something to do with like karma or something, because obviously like I've done wrongs in my life. Obviously I've done things that I'm not proud of. And what allows me to be okay with myself in all this is, number one is realizing that wasn't okay and not doing it again, right? And if I do something wrong, then how can I make it right immediately? And this is what I notice so much in the spiritual community that I don't hear so much, but it's about having a clean conscience, making sure that I'm doing the right thing at the right time, all the time. If someone's hating on me, that like, am I loving them, or am I like coming back with them like in a hurtful or bad thoughts? If I take something that's like not mine and I realize like, oh yeah, I should do that, or oh, I didn't pay for something, oh I should pay, go back and pay for that. There's like these things that I've noticed where something in me wants to slip and be like, oh, it's okay, but actually my conscience is like, no, that's not okay. Like It's clearly not okay. That's not right. And so I've noticed that having a clean conscience allows me to also be at more peace and more content with myself. And Zig Ziglar, who I mentioned before, the mentor, he's like, if you want to stay at the top, like being successful, you got to do it the right way. Because there's ways people can make it rich, by scamming people, by being hurtful or harmful to people, but that's not how you stay up there. It's all about doing the right thing and treating people good.
Yeah, that peace of mind is important because you don't want to be at the top and always looking over your shoulder. That's
Right.
no way to live.
Yeah.
So I love what you're talking about, this clean conscience, because you hear a lot of people talking about being free and moving with life and being, of course, compassionate and all. But I think, at least whenever I hear the word conscience, it points to something almost tangible inside of me, some visceral, raw, instinctual feeling. And I'm curious how you differentiate between that true, raw, instinctual, felt rightness or wrongness and a mental sense of right and wrongness, this kind of conceptual guilt, right? Which I think can also be, engendered through religious upbringing, especially Christianity. From my own experience, it can instill this sort of background narrative of I'm guilty, I am wrong all the time. I'm a sinful creature and there's nothing I can do about it. Everything I do is kind of wrong and I'm just trying so hard to be right and good. But that's coming from a surface level kind of ego standpoint. So how do you tap in? How did you learn to tap into that deeper, guttural rightness?
Yeah, the word that comes up for me is discernment. And I think for me, like, sometimes I may not know what the right or the wrong thing to do is at that moment. And maybe I do something and then I'm like, wow, I feel good about that. And there's other times where like it just sticks around in me, like for an hour or two or three, or maybe a day or two. And then I'm like, okay, I need to make things right. Because for me, going to sleep is very important. Walking around, not having to look over my shoulder is important. Being at peace within myself and being content with myself is probably one of the wealthiest things that I can have.
So discernment. So it's an active state of analyzing your actions and the way that you feel and just being aware of the genuine state of, dis-ease or ease. Is that how you would maybe say it?
I would say connection.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's so interesting is that I talk about these 4 pillars of connection: connection to self, connection to the divine, connection to the earth and the elements, and connection to other people. And I find that in this connection, that's when I can feel whole and complete. When I'm connected to myself, when I'm connected to the divine, to the earth, to other people, I feel this wholeness, this oneness, where everything's fine. Like, I don't need to worry. I don't need to stress. I don't need to fear, And if I need help, then maybe I can reach out for help. And if someone needs help, they can come to me for help.
Yeah, I never thought about how connection also brings a sense of safety. You can't really rely on someone if you're not connected to them. You can't rely on yourself if you're not connected to yourself. You can't rely, you always can rely on the divine, the universe, God, life, but that sense of I trust isn't really established within yourself unless you feel genuinely connected. Yeah, same with the earth, same with people. So how do you train yourself to stay connected in those 4 ways? How do you practice that?
So number 1, connection to yourself. Meditation, breath work. Number 2, connection to the divine, prayer, ritual, ceremony. Number 3, connection to the earth and to the elements, going out barefoot, going into nature, going hiking. For me, drinking ceremonial cacao, connecting to the earth, where it's from, connecting to my heart. And the last one, connecting to other people, going out dancing, socializing, caring for people, asking people how they genuinely are. and actually listening, like actively listening to people, like how they really are doing. Yeah, and really caring for people. I think this is really important, is to really care for people. This, for me, I feel a sense of fulfillment.
Would it be fair to say that purpose and service are kind of inexorably intertwined?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Purpose. Yeah, man. I mean, I think what we're here to do is we're here to overcome the challenges and obstacles that come into our life, and then support other people to help them overcome them. So whatever obstacle that I've overcome or challenge that I've overcome or have gone through, how much more can I help someone else that has also gone through that? And I think that's why there's, so many coaches or so many trainers or so many people, is because that one way or the other, this coach or this trainer has gone through something that I need help, that I need support going through, whether that be fitness or business or financial. And it's really the easy steps. Like if you see someone that's overcome those things, why not just try those things that they did and see where they've been and now who they are today. And if you're inspired by that, then try it out.
Yeah, it's sort of like Carl Jung's wounded healer, right? He says the wounded healer is the most powerful healer because of how much they've been wounded. It's their wounds and their pain, their scars that allows them to heal others. And also to your point, I think there's a really important balance to always be learning and then to always be practicing what you're learning, because you don't really learn until it's reflected and expressed through action. But then also be sharing, be teaching, be guiding, while still learning and practicing and teaching. So I feel like some people are waiting for some magical day before they step into a role or a position to help other people. But in reality, I think it should all be one process. So let's dive into a little bit with how you've used your wounds in your past and your scars and pain to help other people. When did that shift for you? When did you first open that door into stepping into someone that guides other people?
So when I was 18, 19 years old, I studied personal training and nutrition. And then I loved this fitness aspect. I loved staying in shape, staying healthy. And that's when it really started for me. It was like, I better practice what I preach. So I better eat the right things. I better do the things. I was in obstacle racing competitions. I was in half marathon races. And I loved to hike. I loved being athletic in some way. So this was for me like the first step. And then beyond that, going after that was studying yoga and then teaching people Kundalini yoga. And then after that was sharing ceremonial cacao, something that I had connected with so deeply in a cacao ceremony. And then I traveled to Central America, worked with the indigenous people there, and lived in the jungle with them from 2018 to 2020 for 3 years, on and off. And so when I worked in there, I would learn their indigenous language, learn Spanish, learn everything from cacao to planting it to how they do ceremony. I learned from the Nobe indigenous people, which is one of the 7 indigenous tribes of Panama, and they gifted me the name Ichi Rugabu. Ichi is an ancestral name, and Rugabu means one who works on the mountain. So this was a really powerful initiation for me also, because I loved how simple that indigenous people live. They grow their food, they know where their food's from, they build their house, they're connected to their families, they care about each other, they eat together, like every day. And for me, like, I feel a bit emotionally sad about it because I'm not like that with my family. And I want to, and I remember, and still and to this day, like, I still crave for that. Like, there's this huge desire, like, I want to be part of some family, a family where, like, we can eat together, we can work together, play together, play music, hang out, live together. I think, traveling around the world, when you go to especially Eastern countries like Thailand, India, families stay together forever, like forever. And it's like in the US, it's like, you're like 20 or 30. Oh, you live with your parents? Like, oh, it's like weird. or cringe or like disgusting or like, oh, I don't even know if I should talk to this person. It's like so different. And yeah, so coming back to your question about, you know, embodying these things, then after that I dove into men's work, and I had a men's coach, and I started wanting to clear more about my own internal emotions, my internal dialogue. I wanted to be clear from anger, from sadness. You know, I found out that it's not actually the anger, like below the anger is actually sadness. So it was like this rage that I was carrying, and I was using like fitness and hiking and connecting with the nature and screaming every day. I would scream in my pillow. I would scream out in nature, you know, on a rock on the mountain or something, and to get this out. But then it was to get it out to then see more closely, more deeply what was really going on with me. And I think there's this innate feeling of, you know, wanting to be loved, wanting to have a sense of belonging, wanting to have some sort of impact in the world, wanting to love and to be loved. And so when I dove into that, then I started, okay, and then let's help men now. Let's do some men's work stuff. And then I started doing that, facilitating men's circles and men's work. And then from there, I've just been kind of helping people all about connection. Because I find that in this connection, people are so depleted from connection. People are seeking alcohol, drugs, parties, sex, whatever vice you want. But the deepest part of it is actually that we really want connection. Because when we're talking right now, this is actually food for us. We're getting food, we're getting something, we're getting energy, and we're exchanging. But sometimes when you're just by yourself alone, oh, I'm scrolling, oh, I need to eat, oh, I need to smoke some weed, oh, I got to go to the party, oh, maybe you got to sniff something or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you're like feeling like shit. And do you want to feel like shit, or do you want to feel like yourself? So I think for me, the two top things that, like, advice that I can give anyone, especially myself, is be free, be yourself. Be free and be yourself. And what does that look like to be free? Well, number one is to get rid of any toxins in your life. What are vices or toxic things that you know that are not beneficial to your life?
Use that intuitive muscle of discernment.
Yeah.
Yeah. See how you feel after you do something.
Yeah.
Maybe smoking tobacco isn't necessarily a vice until you realize you can't not do it, right? Or your body tells you intuitively this doesn't feel good. But it's so easy, I think, to overlook that and to kind of pretend like there isn't a link between what you did or what you're doing and this negative low feeling that you keep experiencing. And for some reason, we just overlook that. It's so common. So I'm curious, first of all, I love the connection piece because to me, it resonates with my definition of love. For me, I believe that love is the feeling of oneness. It's the felt recognition of oneness between yourself and another, and ultimately all things. And so that's connection. So in a sense, you're teaching people to love themselves, to love God, to love the earth, to love other people, to connect with them. You spoke about doing men's circles, and I'm curious about how you approach helping men versus helping women, what your perspective is on masculinity versus feminine energy, this balance between the two, how it should be embodied within a man and a woman, how it's expressed in the world, maybe how it's commonly out of balance in the world today. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. So I think working with men specifically, it's about connecting them with their emotions. And, I would say masculine energy is perhaps more logical. Feminine energy is more emotional. And so if you think about the Western society, a lot of us are in go, go, go mode, do, thinking, men and women. And so men are being extreme on this side, and then it's throwing women also out of balance. So what I'm noticing working with men is, okay, how can we connect more with your heart? How can we connect more with your intuition? How can we connect more with your internal dialogue with what's going on inside of you instead of always being outside? And for women, I see generally women wanting to perhaps be a lot in the mind. You know, not everyone, but I meet women who are in their masculine, and they even recognize it and they admit it. They say, "Yeah, I'm really in my masculine. I'm not so connected, say, to their womb or to their emotions or their intuition," but they override that with, you know, productivity, doing, creating. And I've noticed a big imbalance in also relating in relationships, because, you know, you have the woman saying, you know, "I don't need you to hold the door for me," or you know, "I can do that," which is making these independent women, which is not a bad thing if that's what you really want and that's what you want to do. But I'm noticing in general that men have lost their kind of innate role in relating to women. And so this has allowed some confusion in men, and women kind of, you know, pushing men away, or, you know, becoming more closer within their women's circle, and, you know, empowering themselves to be whatever more of what they want to be. And yeah, this is this to me, I think, is really sad. But I think masculine energy, you know, leading, leadership, doing, productivity, you know, feminine energy, submissive, trusting, you know, these are things that I think the men and women were supposed to complement each other. And feminine energy, masculine energy is supposed to complement each other. And sometimes in a woman and a man can also be feminine and a woman can be masculine also. So I think it's all about balance, you know? And I think as a human being, we can feel when something's out of balance, or we can see it, right? Like we feel the energy, we see it when someone's talking, or when someone's doing something, or when someone's in our field. We can feel it. We can feel it. Maybe something feels off. Something doesn't feel completely aligned. And so, yeah, masculine, feminine energy, balance. Yeah.
So how do you find is most helpful for men who are too, you know, out of balance, fully in their minds, fully, you know, logical activation, very little emotional awareness, much less intelligence? How do you find, what's helpful to pull people out of that and balance it?
I think a basic technique is that you can literally sit with yourself for 1 minute and say, "What do I feel right now?" And you can do that every hour for 1 minute. Check in. How do I feel right now? I feel angry. Okay. Next hour, how do you feel? I don't feel anything. Okay. Next hour, what do you feel? I feel happy. So really tuning in with that part of you, right? So you have Joseph Campbell, A Hero with 1,000 Faces, right? So it's like there's so many parts of us that we know or may not be aware of, but the more aware of it that we are, then the more attuned we can be, and the more balanced we can be.
I fully agree with you. And one thing that I've found to be difficult for myself as a man is giving myself the space to actually acknowledge the feelings I feel. For example, something happened last week, and I knew I should have been sad about it. And you can guess it was a girl. It was, wanting space. I felt nothing. I read the text, put the phone down. I was like, where's the feeling? I know I should be sad about that. I know I should feel something. And I felt nothing. I was blank. And in the past, I used to mistake that blankness for maturity and centeredness and being beyond the mind and the ego and not being attached. But through many, many, many lessons, I've learned that it's not the case. Those feelings are just being ignored and suppressed through some unconscious automatic mechanism within me that I think is common within a lot of men. And so I really had to sit there, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do this again. I need to at least feel, I need to at least hear a little sorrow. And so I sat there and I really put my mind into the situation, put my mind into, I really enjoyed this presence we shared with each other. And that moment was so beautiful. And then the sadness started to come. And it was so beautiful. And it came, and I, some gentle crying, and it just flowed through me. And 5-10 minutes later, I felt good. It's okay. All right, I acknowledged it. I felt it. I let it be. And not to say that was necessarily all of it to be experienced, but man, it was so surprising. Like, it just was nothing. There was no feeling. So I'm curious, like, have you experienced this? Do any of your clients have trouble where they're like, nope, I don't feel anything. Nope, like, that's just not me. And how do you break them out of that kind of cage of rigidity?
So I have a question. So when you felt that, like, did you feel rejected?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, abandoned, rejected, not enough.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure, man. I can relate. And I think in intimate masculine or men and women dynamics, it's so interesting for a man to be able to feel that and to not react in a victim way. But to really be like, wow, like, I feel this. Okay. I feel rejected. I feel like I'm not enough. And to really go through that process, and maybe have a bro or a friend or a mentor, someone that you can call up or hit up and talk through it with, and like let that pass, and then come back and just be like, yeah, like, this person is completely free to do with their time, with their choice, because it's all about being free and being yourself. And so if this person is free in themselves, then what an opportunity to also give to you to be free in yourself. Because maybe that moment, maybe it was meant for you to do something else. Or maybe it was that tension between you and her to build a little bit stronger, to meet until next time. To then it would be even more explosion, more intimacy, more connection. So this dance is really interesting, and it's all about, coming back to yourself, coming back to myself, And yeah, man, I've had this before, of course, and it's always an opportunity for me to grow and to connect more with myself, maybe connect with another brother or with another friend, to share this, and then creating this dynamic of trust between two guys or two bros, or a mentor and a student.
Yeah, you mentioned Joseph Campbell, Hero with 1,000 Faces, groundbreaking book, and it reminded me of No Bad Parts. It's a book by Dr. Richard Schwartz about internal family system psychology. This basically the thesis that we are all multifaceted, kind of schizophrenic people. We have many parts inside of our brain. And what I find very helpful is to acknowledge that what I'm feeling is not it's not me, it's a part of me. And that, I think, is very helpful because it takes out lessens this personalization, and it lessens this sense of shame or this sense of, deep wounding. It's an acknowledgement that a part of my mind, this mind, is fractured and feels this because of its perception of that, right? And so that's kind of what I was doing, sitting on that couch. I was just acknowledging, like that little kid in me,
Right.
really sad right now.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not I that am feeling all this lowness. It's a part of me.
And
So
good on you, man, for doing that.
took some. I'm just tired. I was just tired of not feeling what I'm feeling, pretending that I've overcome it. So let's dive a little bit into the way that you approach this, these 4 pillars of connection that you speak about with this masculine, just guidance and coaching that you provide. What does working with you look like? In one-on-one, I don't know if you do just one-on-one or group classes, if you have programs, like what does it look like to work with Andrew?
Yeah, so first of all, I get on a discovery call with someone, and rather if you're a man or a woman, I'd love to hear about, what are your challenges? Where are you currently at in your life? Where is it that you want to be? Is it financially, relationship, business? Is it emotional? Is it physical? I really love to tune in with someone holistically and in all facets to really understand, what's going on and if I can really help this person. And if I see that I can help this person, of course that I would love to offer an opportunity for this person to work with me. And the first thing is that if we work in a one-on-one container, the number one thing is that things are confidential. This is one of the most important keys of having a coach or a mentor is being able to be confidential and to feel safe. And what I really love to do is start off with connection to yourself. I love to guide and facilitate breath work and allowing these people to have practices where they can connect more deeply with themselves on a personal level. Rather that be a daily thing, a weekly practice, a monthly practice even. And the second thing is connection to the divine. Now, not everyone believes in a higher power or a God or something, but I love to invite people to really take a moment to either get on their hands and knees or just to close their eyes and to sit and to really connect to all there is. Very simple. Closing your eyes and tapping into the oneness field or tapping into the creator or the intelligence behind life. We have that capability to do that. So it's like taking a moment to listen and also talking. So that's why I love meditation. Meditation allows us to listen and also to have a dialogue, to talk and to express, this is what I want, this is what I want to let go of, this is something I'm calling into my life. The next thing is connecting to the earth, to the elements. Maybe it's starting a garden, connecting your hands into the soil, or it's coming to do a cacao ceremony to connect to the elements, connect to the earth, to have a little ritual, a little moment for you to invite these energies into your space, wherever you are, inside your house even, or inside your office space. And then the next thing is connecting with other people. And this for me is really important because it's the social piece. It's also a hobby piece. Are people wanting to go out of their comfort zone? Are they willing to go out and dance? Are they willing to go out and play chess? Or are they willing to, go to the coffee and give a note to someone that says, hey, have a beautiful day, and to connect with someone? I'm all about giving people recommendations, and I'm all about connecting people more deeply with themselves. So when people are on a call with me, it's all about, A, what's alive in this moment? And obviously following the 4 pillars and rating from 1 to 10 of these pillars, how are you? How are you connected to yourself from 1 to 10? Connected to the divine, to the earth, to the elements, to other people. What's your 1 to 10? What is that? Oh, I don't feel so connected to my mom right now because she hurt me 20 years ago. It's like, okay, let's look at that. So I think it's all about self-accountability, self-responsibility, taking action, and me to be along with them and hold their hand, or to just say, hey, you have someone to support you in this time right now. Because I mean, people can feel alone. People are depressed. People feel alone, and if you or someone who's watching this that's feeling depressed and alone, like, please, like, go reach out to someone, to your coworker, to a friend, to someone who you think cares about you, and just open up. And maybe that may involve tears or crying or sadness or anger, but to really, I think, open ourselves up to be vulnerable allows community, allows tribe to really come in. So when we're vulnerable, that's the key to community.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, I think, just speaking from my own periods of depression, it's difficult to really understand that people want to help you. Not just like for money, not just so they feel good about themselves, but there are many people out there that genuinely love other people and genuinely love helping. And I think taking that first step of opening yourself, being seen, allowing yourself to speak what you feel, I think those words, putting cognitive labels to these ambiguous clouds of emotion, help to refine them, help to reduce them in their size and their complexity and their danger, and then also to release this pressure that gets built up inside of us. I think speaking about the way we feel is so important.
Yeah.
And I would love to speak with you whenever I'm feeling like that. You have such a calm, grounding presence. So I'm glad that you are opening yourself to helping people.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So is there anything, else that you want to kind of share about your work? Are there certain common themes that you see in the people that are drawn to you, and, certain transformations that you see people experience?
So one type of person that comes to me is, number one, that they're burnt out. So they're burnt out in their work, they're burnt out in whatever they've been doing. Maybe they're an entrepreneur, they've been building a big business and they're close to burnout. These people are really go-getters. And these are the type of people that, I help to help them to be more connected to themselves, to their intuition, to their heart, so that they can be a little bit more fulfilled in doing what they are currently doing.
Because you're also an entrepreneur of another business, right? Like, we didn't even talk about that, but you know what it's like to balance, a pretty high level business with all these other forms of connection.
Yeah, I'm really grateful. Cacao King, I've been started nearly 10 years ago. I bootstrapped the company with myself, and lived in my van and traveled to events and festivals and gatherings, sharing cacao, and now we're worldwide and shipping all over the world. And I have a company in Thailand, in India, in Bali, that we're also supplying ceremonial cacao to. So, for me, cacao is connection. It's a tool of connection. Connection to the self, to the divine, to the earth, to the elements, to each other also. And you can have it in an inclusive experience, meaning if I'm Christian, you're Hindu, we can still come together and drink cacao. We can still connect. And so this for me is remembering this oneness of where we all come from.
I want to circle back to the type of people you work with, but I'm curious, like, what is it about cacao that brought this desire to bring it to the world? Like, why, what sparked this huge 10-year-long journey?
So I was living in Hawaii, and I wanted to have something to share to my community. I would go to these gatherings, go to the kirtan, go to the ecstatic dance, go to these gatherings, and I was consuming, I was participating, but I wasn't producing something, I wasn't sharing, I wasn't giving something, I wasn't the creator of something. And so I wanted to share, and so I began sharing cacao. And I just noticed that cacao just raised the vibration between me and my friends, like not one notch, but by 10.
Damn.
And so from that moment, I was like, okay, there's something to this cacao. I found out that the Aztecs used cacao as currency. So you could buy vegetables, buy meat, whatever, with cacao beans. So when they say cacao, doesn't grow on trees is bullshit, because it did. And it does. And it's a form of energy. And so, and the royalty, the warriors, the kings and the queens, these were the people that were actually drinking the cacao, because it was valuable. So cacao is used in ceremony to get rid of evil spirits in the Nobe indigenous community that I lived with. It's used to help heal the sick. It's known as one of the most antioxidant-rich foods on the planet, which means it actually can help cure cancer. So, cacao there's so many benefits for it. Cardiovascular health, increases stem cells. So if you're into biohacking, you should be drinking it at least twice a day, in the morning and afternoon, especially if you're sensitive. And cacao is just an amazing overall drink, just to keep you going.
And it's such a refreshing change from coffee. I love coffee, but whenever I do have a nice, rich cup of cacao, that thick, strong, not even sweet, just this huge density of flavor, man, it does create a shift in my mind, my energy. It's this kind of deep, just shift in frequency. And my vibration is just higher, stronger. Like, I genuinely love it. I don't know why I don't drink it more. I'll get an order from you after this.
Sure. Yeah, even with people who cannot quit coffee, if you add ceremony cacao to your coffee, it actually even smooths the edges with your coffee. And try it for yourself. And obviously, for those who are tired of coffee, tired of the jitters, tired of being anxious or needing the reliance of drinking 3, 4, 5 cups of coffee a day, like more than 1, more than 2, it's, we're so sensitive to ourselves that we know when we're starting to get addicted to something. And so cacao allows you to find that natural energy and also that natural balance, so that you don't have those spikes and those crashes, but you have that steady energy.
Yeah, man, it's great. I don't know why I've never thought about getting cacao for my family back home, but my parents drink way too much coffee. I would love to get them some Cacao King.
Please.
And see if they would like it. I bet they would love it. So that's great. So you don't know how to help men that are burnt out just because you yourself have been disconnected from purpose and drive and overwhelmed and maybe even feeling depressed and isolated, but you also know how to help those people because you're yourself an entrepreneur. You have your own business. You know the intricacies of, what it's like to constantly be putting out fires, but yet to constantly have to accept it and be okay with it.
Yeah.
And stay connected to yourself and stay healthy and all these things.
Yeah.
So I think that's very powerful. You were going to mention another type of person that you find is attracted to you. Is there any other type of clients that you work with commonly?
Yeah, another type of person that comes to me is going through not a transaction, but a transition.
Okay.
Yeah, so someone who's transitioning from one thing to the next. So rather they lost their job, or they lost their partner, or they're out of a marriage or something like this. They are kind of looking for some clarity, some purpose, some next steps, and going in a pure and clean way, because they want to drop what they did and kind of go forward in a true way. And so when people work with me, I love taking people through these breath work, through these cacao sessions, which basically allows their stagnant energy to unlock, to awaken. It's like I'm like supporting people in emotional awakening. Because so many people have suppressed emotions, so many people have suppressed energy inside of them. They're not moving, they're sedentary, they're just sitting on the computer, they're hunched over, they have lower back pain. I'm helping these people to connect more deeply with themselves and to receive the answer which is already inside of them.
It's powerful, bro. What do you find happens when someone is able to release those emotions, when someone is able to connect and actually embody these principles that you're teaching?
So one of the first things that people tell me that they experience is peace. Is like, wow, my mind is so calm. It's like, wow, like I feel so present. And when someone can experience immediate change in one session, that's powerful. And then when someone works with me for say 3 months or 6 months and they're like completely, their life is completely changed and they want to, you know, be my friend or stay connected with me for the rest of their life, it's like, it's really special. It's a really special moment. And yeah, I think, you know, for me, connections is so fulfilling. You know, there's a saying that like your net worth is your network, you know, but really for me, it's about the connections that I've built along the way.
Your network is your inner net worth. Last question, just because I'm curious for myself. You know, when someone's going through this big transitional period, there's usually going to be an inevitable chapter of pain and discomfort, darkness, feeling lost, losing hope, belief. In order to be rebuilt bigger, stronger, sometimes the foundation has to be restructured. And that's never fun. So what tips do you have for someone either that you're working with or just going through this right now that is in the midst of kind of falling apart? What would you say to someone like that?
I would say it's time to come back to the basics. And what do the basics look like for you? You know, what do the basics look like for you? For some people, maybe it's going on a walk and like clearing their mind. Sometimes it's maybe writing the book or writing their life story that they never wrote down, but they've always wanted to. Maybe it's doing that trip that, you know, they wanted to do since they were 16 or 18 or whatever. It's doing these things that are coming back to the basics of yourself. Because when you come back to the basics of yourself, you can then project from wherever you want to go from that space of simplicity, of basics, right? You're not filled with all these thoughts. You're not filled with all this chaotic energy. You're coming back to yourself. You're in a meditative space. You're peaceful. You're calm. And when you come from the space of coming back to the basics, then, yeah, you can go out into the world and take it on again. Because, you know, we were born into this world as a baby. Very simple, very basic. And look what we're able to create. So when we come back to this place of basic, of simplicity, and creating from that space, wow, then we're talking some genuine, authentic, free, true space.
What a message to end on. Andreas, thank you, brother.
Thank you, bro.